Good morning, everyone. Good Friday morning. This is Robert People of RobertPeople.com, and thanks for tuning in. This is People's Court. I sincerely apologize for my lateness. I intend to do these episodes Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, but a few things have come up, and again, my apologies. I want to make sure I'm here by 8:30 Eastern Time. So thank you for tuning in. If you are still here, if you're here with me for today, for the last podcast of the week. So I'll get right on to it. We do a lot of, as a society, we've gotten to a place where different mental illnesses and different disorders are reduced. We don't understand them. They're lessened, they're minimized. And we have to get to a place where we stop doing that. We have to stop reducing what it means to have a mental disorder, a mental illness. Even disabilities we do this with. Mental disabilities. And when I say that, what I mean is we do a lot of describing. When we want to describe something we don't like, as a society, as a whole, we turn straight to mental illnesses, disabilities, disorders, right? When you don't like something, oh man, that's so retarded. Or I am just OCD about this, room. Or how the blanket's supposed to be on my bed, or how the pencils are supposed to sit on my desk and things like that. What else do we have? We have, we have retarded, OCD, ADD, because I don't feel like paying attention to something. Man, I'm ADD. You know I'm ADA or ADHD and all this stuff. These are serious disorders that exist. Serious disorders, diseases, illnesses, and we're reducing them to jokes. Now, the first place a lot of people like to go is how sensitive folks like me are, or anybody who has an issue with it. Okay, if that's you, take a number, have a seat. Been there, done that, heard it all before. And at the same time, it's not acceptable. It's not okay. We've gotten to where we've become conditioned to do this. Retarded describes something we don't like. A mentally retarded person doesn't ask to be in that condition. Those who suffer from these other disorders, these are not just annoyances. See, when we see something a certain way, it's just an annoyance for us. OCD, we're just annoyed if it looks like this rather than this. But obsessive compulsive disorder, that's a real disorder. A trained doctor or a trained professional decided that with research and everything else, that this exists. Now, one thing a lot of us like to question. A lot of us like to question how valid these disorders are, especially when we're hearing about new ones every day. It's fair. Some of them are questionable. But at the same time, a lot of people also like to go and say things like, well, these weren't around back then. Or we didn't worry about that. We didn't think about that stuff. Do you see that as being acceptable either? Do you think that's a reasonable way of thinking? Do you honestly believe that in the 60s and 70s, by the 1960s and 1970s, we have reached the peak of where we will be medically when it comes to mental disorders, diseases, illnesses? 60s and 70s, we know everything there is to know. We're discovering things every day. New advances are being made, and you're telling me that because we didn't acknowledge attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, things like, let me see, what else is something, autism, things like that, because we didn't acknowledge it back in the day, that means they didn't exist? Ask yourself this. Is this reasonable? Is it reasonable to believe that we cannot discover anything else? And rather than attempt to understand, we put down, we make fun of, we reduce it. It's disrespectful to the people suffering from them. And when I say conditioned, we're conditioned to do this. We, meaning me too, we're conditioned because when we hear it at a certain time, we just use it. We don't realize the ramifications and what it means to use this terminology. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person to do it. It just means you're doing something that is not acceptable, that we should not do. And the reason I say we should not do it is because of the fact that if you ended up with someone in your family, if someone in your family ended up with a disorder, a disease, an illness, some type of disability, that's the time a lot of us like to speak up and say, hey, stop doing that. But it shouldn't take that. It shouldn't take this being in our family before we have enough empathy to say, maybe I shouldn't say this now. When I was young, in middle school I particularly remember, that's the first time I heard the word retarded used on a somewhat consistent basis. And we had, a great number of mentally disabled children in our school. And, of course, in the cafeteria, they rode the, different bus than us. They had a different section in the cafeteria. And, of course, as kids do, people made fun of them. And not only making fun of how they walked, how they spoke, how their physical deformities, things like that, but that's also when we began saying things, using this language, saying things like something's retarded because we don't like it, because we find it to be stupid. And I did the same thing. But the more I saw that in combination with these kids being made fun of directly to their faces, and I forgot what the name is of their assistants, the ones who help them around the school and things like that. And please forgive the wind. I'm outside and it's a little bit windy right now, but the people who assist them, yelling at the kids and telling them to stop making fun of them and so forth. When I saw how bad those kids felt, I knew something just wasn't right. Something wasn't okay. And we should not be so comfortable that we're taking something that these people who have these mental illnesses, disabilities, and so forth, that they did not ask for. They never asked for this. And we're using it to describe something derogatory. We are all God's children, right? So who are we to put down another one of God's children because he or she doesn't look like us? Retarded is a word. Mental retardation is a term. Don't come back with, political correctness and all this nonsense. Mental retardation is a term. When you say someone is mentally retarded, that's the proper way of putting it. But we should not be using these terms to describe or to hurt someone. You're retarded, man. That's not how, that has nothing to do with the definition. That's not the proper definition of it. No one is saying not to use the term if you're using it the right way. But these should not be seen as derogatory terms. No one asked to be in these conditions. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about the English language is that we have so many words that we can use. So many words we can use to describe things we don't like. There are words specifically for that purpose. So we don't have to try to pull it from disabilities and things we don't understand. We have words for them already. If you think something is stupid, say stupid. You can say stupid all day to describe something that you think is, guess what? Stupid. That's the total definition of it. Silly, crazy, wild, doesn't make sense. I don't get it. There's all kinds we can use. We don't get it, so automatically we go to retarded. Come on. And again, I say we're conditioned. We're not bad people just because we say this, but we've gotten conditioned to where we do it sometimes without even thinking. But there's so many mental illnesses, diseases, disorders. Remember on social media some years back when there were all there were a couple, but the main ones I remember are these challenges, okay? Challenges, quote unquote, because there's nothing challenging to them. It's just a matter of you're doing something and you're putting on video. There's no challenge to that. But this one was called the ice water challenge or the ice bucket challenge, whatever it is. But the whole purpose is to, fill an ice, fill a bucket with ice water and have someone dump it over your head. Now, you're supposed to say something in the beginning of it. This is the ice bucket challenge, and I challenge this many people to do it, so on and so forth. Now, again, I'm looking for the, quote, challenge to this because there's not really much of a challenge to dumping water on your head, but eventually, after I saw so much of this, I learned that the purpose of it, allegedly, was to give people a sense of ALS disease, called Lou Gehrig's disease. I can't remember the what the ALS stands for. But it's Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a neurological functioning disease. It's not fatal all the time. Sometimes it is. It was in Lou Gehrig's case, but a lot of people are living with ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease today. And that was supposed to give us a sense of it. And I of course I asked the question, ALS, we're supposed to understand what ALS is based on getting water dumped on our heads? That gives us the whole feel of it? I have this, while I'm not a doctor and I'm not an expert on what ALS is, I'm pretty sure there's a little more to it than the feeling you get from having ice dumped on you. And and remembering as I'm talking right now, that's what it was about. People said that too. This is for ALS awareness. Why do we need these gimmicky games and things like that to make someone aware of something? It was the same way, and I'll come right back to what I'm talking about and wrap up. But it was the same way with breast cancer awareness. At one time, and this is funny because this made no sense. But at one time, the game was to post and how did this go? And only women were supposed to do this. Only women were supposed to do it. Post, how did it go? Your birthday. You were given a certain month. Whatever month your birthday was on describes a part of the world, or part of the country. So January was Hawaii, February was the Caribbean, and March was Bahamas, whatever. And the day of your birth represented the number of months. So all you're supposed to do is post, I'm going to the Bahamas for 15 months. And that's all you're supposed to say. And the idea is to get people to reply. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, and all this and all that. Now, again, the women were the only ones. And again, I'll get right back to what I was saying and wrap up shortly. But women are the only ones who are supposed to do this. And if a woman asks a question or whatever, you go to her inbox and you go to her private message and you tell her what the whole game is. If men ask, guess what? You're not supposed to tell them anything. Men are supposed to be just left in suspense. Awareness, right? Awareness. And when someone asks a question, you don't tell them. Tell me how that promotes awareness. It's the same thing with the ALS challenge, so to speak. But anyway, men don't answer men at all. And that was it. What the big flaw, in which I'm glad I'm not seeing this nonsense anymore, the big flaw in this was, for one, some of the places people were describing, it didn't make sense that they were going there for, maybe 1, 2 I could almost accept. I'm going to the Bahamas for 1 month. Okay, you're on vacation. I'm going for 2 months. Okay. Got you. You're moving there 3 months. 4 months. What if your birthday's on the 27th? I'm going to the Bahamas for 27 months. How much sense does that make? People are not going to be like, oh, you're going to have so much fun. They're going to say, what is this chick's problem? 27 months? And who describes it like that? Whoever came up with this thing didn't think it through. But who describes that many months in months? 2.5 years, 3 years. The last thing on this is that my ex-wife at the time, my wife at the time, bought into this too. And she said she's going somewhere for 30 months. Her birthday is on the 30th of the month. And she's going somewhere for 30 months. And of course, I come on and I say, excuse me, is there something you want to tell me? You're going somewhere for what? For how long? And where am I during this process? So, anyway, eventually, as I continue to dig and ruin people's fun, I eventually found out that's what it was about. But back to ALS and these other disorders and illnesses, the reason I brought that up is because we do so much instead of trying to understand. And then again, breast cancer is a serious issue too, obviously. So I could, in hindsight, I could include that with this. We want to make people aware of something by what? Playing a game? Having folks go all around and weave to try to figure out what this is? How is that making anybody aware of anything? ALS, these disorders, all these, diseases, the disabilities people have to deal with every day. And as far as awareness goes, we're going all around just learning. Let's learn about them. Let's stop making fun of it. Let's stop reducing it to a joke. People often have a different tune once it happens in their family, but it should not take that. Retardation is not something that should be frowned upon, viewed as derogatory, viewed as negative. But when we say something's retarded because we don't like it or because it doesn't make sense, that's what we're doing. And the disorders, yes, you don't have to get them. They don't have to make sense to you. We don't have to have, had it back in the past. But there are people who are in serious, mentally, they're in serious, how can I put this? They're in a very serious place. Traumatic, we can almost say, when it comes to this. They are in quite a place, right? Because it's not as simple as us just being annoyed with something. Okay, yeah, we throw it around, but the fact is, again, and I'm done. I'm done at this. But we reduce them to jokes because that's the extent of the understanding we want to have for them. Man, don't put the blanket like that. Man, I'm OCD about how the pillows are on the bed. No, you're not. You just want the pillows there a certain way. Man, I'm OCD about how the pencils are arranged on my desk. No, you're not. You're just annoyed when the pencils don't look like the way you want them to look. That's not OCD. That's not a serious obsessive compulsive disorder function. You want something to look a certain way. Those people who feel that, they don't feel this annoyance. Their body goes through a serious change. Serious change. With OCD, with, what else did we say? ADHD, ADD, and every other disorder that's out there. Try to understand. That's what I'm asking you. Try to understand these. Rather than being quick to call everybody sensitive and snowflake and all this other nonsense, try to understand why somebody would have a problem with it and what it means when you use this type of terminology to reduce these serious issues. Because then when things happen, oh, by the way, bipolar is another one. But when things happen, we're so busy making fun of these disorders and these illnesses, these mental issues, that we have no idea how to even respond to it. But bipolar is another one. Someone's mood changing quickly does not make them bipolar. I've heard that so much in my life. Bipolar is so much more than just a mood swing or somebody just changing. There's people all over the place who keep their cool for up to a certain point, and eventually they blow up because they've gotten tired of keeping their cool. That doesn't mean someone's bipolar. And again, I'm no medical professional, but I have a feeling that the people who do it that way, to where you see a quick change in their behavior and their mood, they can explain that. They can say, well, I did it now because of the fact that I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut about this. I need to say something now. You know what I mean? So it's different than mood swings just going and you're like, man, I don't know why do I feel like this? That's different. You don't get it. Now you can say, okay, it might be a little something more there. But we see someone who's happy right now, and then 3 minutes later they're not happy or they're mad at something, and they can tell you straight up, this is what I'm upset about. And because of the fact that they were happy a short time ago, they're bipolar? No. We throw this stuff out there and we go all around trying to understand this stuff, trying to make sense out of it. We make fun of it. We go around, we do all this stuff. Let's try to understand, everybody. Don't wait till it hits your family before you care enough about it. Anybody can care at that point. But with just about all these mental disorders and illnesses, diseases and everything, just about with all of them, there's a joke for it or some little quick way to not have to acknowledge it and all this and that. Let's try to reduce how, when it comes to renewing our minds and changing our thinking, if you're someone who's serious about that, let's all do this. And I say let's because, again, I am there too. I am sure, and I do my best not to, but I'm sure I still do it. And even if I don't do it now, I did it, and it was not okay. But this is why mental health has the stigma it does. Because we're so quick to make fun of it. And then when someone is, goodness knows, 30, 40, 50 years old and has reached the point that we can't just keep pushing it aside anymore, well, no one takes that seriously. You're this old and you got a mental man, come on, you better get over that. That's what we say. Personally, I'm glad that we're talking more about mental health now. But it's so important. And we have to stop reducing mental disorders, mental illnesses, mental diseases, mental disabilities. We have to stop reducing that and making jokes out of them and looking at them as derogatory. Because they can strike any one of us at any time. In fact, some of you listening to this right now might be going through something and have no idea that it's happening. Awareness is knowing. It's not playing a silly game. It's not telling one gender but not the other. It's about educating yourself to the fullest. That's what awareness is. This is Robert People. You listen to RobertPeople.com. I'm sorry, this is People's Court. Okay, and Robert People of RobertPeople.com. Have a great Friday, a great weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday.